Hi folks, Lee here, welcome to Ninja Guitar. So what I'm going to show you today is basically a continuation of the videos that I've been making over the last few weeks, which are just covering like the basic harmony, if you like, from a guitarist perspective. So we've looked at, the chromatic scale, the major scale, how to build chords from that. We've also looked at the modes. So I want to take things a little bit further now, and I wanted to put it to a vote in terms of which direction you'd like to go in. So on my Facebook page, which you can find down here, we had a little vote. You voted for chord substitution, so I'm going to try and explain that to you. So what is chord substitution? Why do we bother doing it? What is it all about? First thing to mention really is that chord substitution is not just the mainstay of jazz players or jazz composers. You can incorporate it into any style. And it's just another technique really that you can utilise to make your compositions more interesting or make more interesting melodies. So, don't be put off by it thinking, well, this is just for the jazz guys. Not necessarily. Let me give you an example of how we can take a basic, simple chord progression, which sounds nice in its own right, but then perhaps make it more interesting or take it in other directions. So, if we take the key of G major and we played a 1, a 2, a 5, and then back to 1. That kind of chord progression. So we'd have G major, then A minor, then the 5, G major, and then back to G. So we could have sounds nice, but we can make it more interesting than that. Chord substitution, put simply, is not just a matter of just taking a chord out and putting a new chord in. Take for instance this G major chord. We've got that running for like a whole bar, haven't we? 4 downstrokes if you like. Which is fine, but we could actually, for each one of those beats of a bar, substitute the G major. So we're not taking the G major out, but we're going to put another one in its place after the G. Let me change that G major, for instance, to the extended version, to a major 7 or a major 9. So now we've got G major 7, for instance. So the first substitution, if you were going to count them in terms of rules and give them numbers, one of them, and we'll call it number 1, is to extend the chords that you're already in. And if you're not sure about extending chords, I won't talk about it here because I've made a video about that. Go and have a look at it, familiarise yourself with that, then come back. But basically, that's one of the first things you can do with any chord progression, is just to extend the chords. That's effectively substituting the original chord for an extended version. Okay, so we've extended the chords. So in the case of the chord progression we're playing, we've now got G major 7, A minor 7, D dominant 7, or D9. And then back to G major 7. One of the things we can also do is we can extend the chord and we can alter it slightly by taking one of the notes and just taking it a semitone up or down. So say for instance, what works really nice on a dominant chord is to move the 9th up or down, depending on which direction you want to go. So there's the sharp 9, here's the flat 9. So we could have this. Another rule that you can employ is to play the chord that you're on and then play it a semitone below or above. And that's effectively a substitution. We can also do that by utilising diminished chords either side of the chord that you're on, or altered chords. So from the G major 7 we could go to perhaps this chord, and that's a G7 with a raised bass note to the G sharp. And there's so many different ways you could actually define that chord in terms of a name, but the best way to look at it guitar wise, G7, raise the bass note, and that's kind of that chromatic move from G major 7 semitone. Just use your ears. So that could take us up to the A minor 7, so we could have this. And then the D7 or 9 with that flat 9, and then back. I'm not defining any kind of rhythm there, you can choose, depending on the chord progression that you're playing, but just to give you an idea of where those kind of jazz sounds come. So another thing you can do, and this is quite an exciting geeky type of thing that you start to realise about chords, is if we take our G major scale that's harmonised, so we've got G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp diminished, back to G major, add the 7ths in. If we take the notes that are making up a G major 7 or a G major 9, and then we have a look at the notes, should I say, that are making up a B minor chord, or even a B minor 7, you can start to see that they are, in fact, the same notes. So they share notes. So if a B minor 7 really is kind of like an extension, a massive extension of a G major chord. So technically you can change between the two. So what we'll do is we'll have the G major 7 as the first beat of the bar. The second beat will be that raised G sharp with the dominant, and then we'll go up to B minor 7. And then we could employ the same thing I was talking about earlier. One of the other rules was take a chord, play the same chord but a semitone above or below. And since we're going down to A minor, might as well have that one, B flat minor 7. So now we're at A minor, D7 9 or D9, D7 flat 9. So we've now got a really nice chromatic run, which is this. But we can take it further still. So, and before I get to this chord, which is the D9, I could substitute it for one above or below, the exact same chord. So I'm going to substitute it for an E flat 9, and then go back to the D7 flat, D7 9. So we've got so the jazz guys and girls will be looking for little chromatic runs and passages within that. And if you're playing a chord, if you're playing a solo over those, one of the strongest things you can do is to pick notes from the chords, number one, because they're never going to sound wrong. In fact, nothing sounds wrong anyway. That's the nature of music. If you want to create tension, play a note that's outside of the chord or the scale, and if you kind of resolve it at the right point, that could be very powerful. But one of the easiest things you can do to get into playing chord voicings and playing along with them is to pick notes from the chord itself. So if you're looking at perhaps the run down from that D9 to the D7 flat 9 to the G major 7 shape that I played, there's this little chromatic run. So if I was being, keeping to all the common tones of the chords, I'd probably play that. And that would work lovely over. And if you're wondering what to play on those chords in between, the G major scale that you know and are beginning to love probably, just think about the chromatic notes, the notes that are in between those tones and semitones. Start to explore those a little bit, because they're not necessarily wrong. And obviously if you're going from the B minor 7 and go to A minor 7, all the notes G major are going to work. If I'm just playing this chord, it's in between. None of those notes belong in that scale. So all of the notes you play will be outside of that, which will sound great if you're staying on it for not too long and you're trying to build the tension. Or you could steal notes from that chord. Or you could treat that chord as a 2 of another key. So you could actually raise the scale that you're playing from a G major, so you could have... But on the G, when you get to the B flat minor 7, you could just raise it up again, raise it up a semitone to G sharp major. Then you're back again, aren't you, to the second chord, which is A minor, back to G major. Substitution is very useful. You can bring it into your solo playing like I've just showed you, and I hope that you get something out of all of the different substitution techniques. And like I say, music is about your ears and your heart. Your brain comes into it partially to help you to kind of express yourself, but don't get too caught up with all of the theoretical stuff. As long as, it doesn't matter, as long as you know your heart's still involved in it. If you think, for instance, when there was obviously the groundbreaking innovators of blues music didn't sit around and go, let's create a dominant 7 chord, let's make all the chords in this 1-4-5 chord progression a dominant 7 chord. No, they were just playing, and they needed to get something out of themselves, and that's where the blues was born from. So, but that's effect when you go back and look at it, they had substituted each one of those major chords for a dominant 7, so you get a typical. In a 12-bar blues, and they're all dominant 7s. So, like I say, it's use the technique to go back and analyse your favourite solos, or to kind of build an interesting chord progression. But then ultimately, it's about you expressing yourself without thinking too deeply about it, moving into or over the top of it. Okay, hope some of that's made sense. As always, drop me a comment or drop me a message if you don't get any of it, or you want me to try and explain it in more detail. I'm happy to do so. Really enjoyed teaching, so have fun with it. Until next time, see you.